And we are live. We're back.
Whoa, I just got my ear quality dropped a little bit there when we went live.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, no, it's okay now. It's good. There's just a little glitch for a second.
Okay. Nice. Beauty.
All right.
All right. Episode 4. Jesus.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
We're here, yes.
So much has happened. So much. Okay.
This is what I'll let you take it away.
All right. This John A. McDonald thing. I don't know how much you know about it.
I know a little. I know to the extent that I know statue was taken down. Yeah. I know that there was no consultation with the public of Victoria regarding this taking down the statue.
Not much. It happened very quickly.
Yes. And I know I've read Lisa Help's statement afterwards about her not realizing that the public had such an interest in this particular case. Mm-hmm. So that's about my extent of knowledge regarding the current specific things about it.
Okay. Yeah. So they're the mayor promised to put it back up somewhere.
Oh, else. Yes. Yeah.
Somewhere else, though, not out in front of City Hall. Which is fine. I guess that it's fine. But yeah, I was kind of choked that they were gonna take it down. Just
I'm a little bit puzzled as to the being so like wanting to put it back up, and then why I don't fully get the reason for moving it. I understand originally they were just going to take it down and not put it back up.
Mm-hmm.
And now because of the outcry, they're going to put it up somewhere else.
I don't know if this is the actual reason why, but I think it had something to do with being outside of City Hall, where I don't know, that's where politics happen, I guess. I don't know. And I think it was more of a symbolic thing, taking John A. McDonald out of politics and moving him maybe into a museum, or I don't know where they're going to move him, but moving him somewhere where the statue can be, I don't know, appreciated. I don't know, for the history, for what it is. Yes. and not associated with politics or with law, that sort of thing.
Yeah, which I mean has its merit, but I feel like there's a separation between that. It's not this was a founding person in creating our country as a bedrock level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I know. Yeah, and the reason why they wanted to take him down is part of reconciliation for Indigenous people, which I get. I can appreciate both sides of the argument. This is one of those where I can see where they're coming from. I can see where they're coming from. I can see where other people are coming from. I lean towards the not getting rid of it side, because he is a founding father and he has a lot more history than just the residential schools. You know what I mean? There's a lot more history than just that. And I understand that the residential schools obviously probably one of Canada's darkest things that they ever did.
Not a good thing.
Yeah. But I think that in John A. McDonald's defense, I think it's important to look at the whole when he was prime minister and the decision to assimilate Indigenous people, and the whole reason for residential schools was to have them be a part of I don't know, I'm going to say white culture or Canadian culture, have them be a part of the country, because obviously their way of living was far different than what the European way of living was and they wanted them to assimilate to that, and they wanted them to be a part of that. So I think you have to look at it from like what his intentions were then, and not looking back on it. Like looking back on it, it's a terrible idea in
Yeah, I
retrospect.
mean, yeah,
But
the wonderful world of like hindsight bias, whereas like if you us looking upon it, we have so much more information and can see how things turned out, as opposed to
yeah, like then,
misinformed individual making a decision for what they thought at the time
yeah,
would be beneficial.
and I think his intentions at the time were like positive. Like they were meant to be positive. That he wanted to bring these indigenous people into our community, and or into the white community, and into, you know what I mean, into European culture, and have them be Canadian. And I think it came from a place of, because obviously because this is kind of a touchy subject, because obviously it's really easy to talk about residential schools and go, that was horrible, because of all the terrible things that happened, murders, rapes, missing people, like all the terrible stuff that happened. But that, like when he started the residential schools, when he like architected them, that wasn't a part of the plan. The plan
Yeah, I mean,
was that,
whether
like,
or not you you agree that the idea was a good one, the idea was that my culture is superior, so I want these people to be able to like bathe in the glory that is my culture,
yeah,
and benefit from it.
yeah. So I think that was part of where he was coming from. At the same time, there he definitely had a bias towards them, or not, like against them. I mean,
Yeah,
like, but like people say he was a racist, and like people say he was a racist, and didn't like them, or there's that quote of him calling them animals or savages or something like that.
okay.
To be fair, everyone in the 1800s hated the indigenous people. Like all of them had, I'm pretty sure most white people back then did not like indigenous people, just like they didn't really like black people back then. You know what I mean? They were discriminated against because that was the culture. Obviously,
Yes.
in retrospect, that's not appropriate. That's not that's not okay.
We're all on the same page there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but back then that was considered the norm. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, like people now who I think like, oh, I wouldn't hold slaves, or like I wouldn't be a Nazi in World War II Germany. The
that's
likelihood that you would be one of those very, very few individuals who would oppose the mainstream norm is very small.
Yeah, there have been studies to show like that, or that there have been cases of like regular people will do horrible things if people in power tell them to do it. There have been like enough studies conducted to show that like regular people, if they think that there is someone of much superior authority than them, they'll do what that person says, because they're
Absolutely.
like there've been like real life cases of it, and there have been clinical studies of it. Like it's just a thing. Like if
the whole culture propagating this belief, understandable that most people would fall into that. I mean, we can now all agree that probably was of a net detriment, but
yeah. And so what got me thinking about this, like thinking about it from like thinking about what John A. Macdonald's intentions were then, what got me thinking about it was after like when like I started digging a bit more, and John A. Macdonald was the first person to put forth the idea of giving Indigenous people the right to vote 70 years before they actually got the right to vote.
Wow.
Yeah, he was also the first person to put forth the idea of giving women to vote, where back then no other country had women's suffrage. No other country women could vote yet, but he put forth the idea that they could. And on the Indigenous one, he wanted to give them the right to vote. It was some quote like to put them in equal footing with the white brethren, I think was the quote, something like that. But yeah, like he wanted them to give them the right to vote. And So I think to me, that's just what got me thinking, like, maybe maybe he didn't hate them as much as people say he did. Maybe he genuinely came at it with an intention to, uh, you know, have them assimilate into the culture, and that was to him a good idea. Again, in retrospect, not a good idea, but then that seemed
but if you consider,
he wanted them to be Canadian. He wanted them to be a part of the country that they were creating.
yes, and I mean, I feel like it's easy to try and like counteract that statement with like it's important to separate just that because someone in their mind they were coming from the correct place. Like if you like, I'm gonna say like the Hitler example because it kind of ties into the whole statue thing as well.
Yeah.
Like obviously Hitler thought he was doing the right thing and that his idea was that this is the correct just way that things should be, and we can all agree that that's much more flawed than the case that we're talking about. But I think that there's a pretty big disconnect between those two.
Yeah. Also, I don't think relating Hitler to relating him to John A. Macdonald. I think they're too I think they're too different. I get where you're coming from, the idea, but like
I don't mean like relating the people together, but I just mean relating the idea of like X person thinks that their idea is of like benefit. But basically, if you just sort of have to look at the motivations behind them and that they're not the same case.
Yeah.
Which then I think comes into the idea of removing statues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I think as a general belief, I don't like the idea of removing statues altogether. I mean, like
personally, I like the idea of a plaque a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the plaque idea.
I like plaques.
Yeah, acknowledging those sorts of things, as well as obviously, I do think that there can be merit to removing a statue, especially if it's, I mean, like, if you take the municipality or the population as a whole, this is something that everybody lives with. We live in a democracy. I don't think there's anything wrong with allowing the people to vote on a specific issue like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like if like the majority of people in Victoria wanted the statue gone, I would respect removing the statue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I guess it just seemed like almost an under the table thing. Almost, I think.
Yeah, it was because they took the belief that they were elected representatives, and it's their job to decide these sorts of things. But I think that, I mean, I don't disagree that they had like the rights to do that, but I feel like it would have been wise to sort of realize that this probably wasn't something that people were considering. You were deciding when they were electing these individuals. Like, this is a very different outside of the regular political scope, I think, of like removing a piece of history or historical landmark.
Yeah, that does seem like something that you would like want to like put out a poll almost, but I think that I think the reason why they didn't do that was exactly what happened is enough people wanted it to stay, or enough people didn't want it removed. And
this was like national news.
Yeah, I know. The Ontario government wanted to take the statue. They
didn't want to buy it. Yeah,
they wanted to buy it or something, and the Victoria government said no.
Yeah, just like, no, we want to keep our statue that we're getting rid of.
Yeah, so I don't know what they're planning on doing with it. I thought that maybe they'd try, like, maybe they still might put it up in like the Royal BC Museum somewhere, like out front of there or something like that.
Yeah,
seems like if they want, because I mean, like, the argument is kind of, I don't know. On one hand of the argument, you have this is reconciliation for like we want to get rid of it because um, because of reconciliation towards indigenous people.
Yes.
And then on the other side, people are like, we don't want to get rid of it because of history. So they're not even arguing about really the same thing. You know what I mean?
No, which then makes it difficult to have a dialogue about it.
Yeah, because
that's very true. I actually haven't thought about it like that.
Yeah,
where you have two people, like no one's actually arguing because we're not talking about the same thing.
Yeah, we're talking about the statue, but but it's hard, like because people on the side of this is history. I'm pretty sure like 99.9% of those people would agree that we need to move towards reconciliation towards indigenous people. But that's not the way to do it. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know.
But definitely the way to do it is not by someone making a point for reconciliation and somebody else countering that point with a completely different argument about history.
Yeah.
Like about the historical value of the statue. Like, we're not talking about the same thing here. I am arguing these points, and you're arguing totally different points. We're all talking about the statue, but nobody has this dialogue actually going on.
Yeah, basically it comes down to some people want it taken down because of the bad shit he did, and some people want it taken down because, or some people don't want it taken down because of all the shit he did, good and bad. It's history nonetheless. And people who want it taken down or want it taken down for the bad shit that he did. You can, I mean, it's not comparable, but you can look at all prime ministers, all of them have done kind of stupid, shitty stuff. Not comparable, but you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to completely discredit them because of the couple, you know, the shitty stuff that they did. And it's kind of this got me researching, and like it got me like looking into what else is going on with John A. Macdonald, because I heard that I heard somewhere that they were planning on taking him off of the $10 bill, and I was like, no, he's still on there. And I went and looked at one of the new bills, and he is on there, but with 3 other people that I have no idea who they are. And now the new government is coming up with new money, and on this proposed new $10 bill, he's not on it. I just watched a bit on it. He's not on it. Instead, there's a woman on it from like, I don't know when, but a long time ago, when there was still lots of racial discrimination, because she was half black, half white.
Okay.
And I guess she turned into some sort of anti-racist activist. I guess back, and it was like very early, so it was obviously in the early 1900s or something like that. And so that's who they have on the new $10 bill, like the brand new one that's going to be coming out.
I'm just pulling this up right now, actually, because I'm just a little curious as to.
Yeah, totally. Okay, it's still going. I accidentally logged out of the live somehow.
Oh no, are we?
Yeah, we're still good. It still says we're live. Yeah.
Okay.
That scared the shit out of me. I was like, oh fuck. Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna try and pull up the new $10 bill, and then I'm gonna try and screen share it so I can.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm trying to find what the reasons are. Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I'm surprised that again, this is intriguing that this wasn't like at least on my side, a overly well-known story. Like, this is maybe I'm just
Yeah, so I'm gonna screen share for you.
unexposed to me about this. But yeah, that it says that she refused to leave a whites-only section in a Halifax movie theater almost a decade before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus.
Yeah. Oh my god. Glitchy. I don't like that. I don't like this screen sharing thing.
Yeah, that's okay.
That was weird. But anyway, yeah. So it does, I do kind of get the feeling that generally the Canadian government is trying to get rid of the John A. Macdonald out of history. Actually, because I kept digging into this, that I watched a CBC clip, and there is a woman on there talking about how they're now, I can't remember if it was proposing or they are planning to stop teaching John A. Macdonald in schools, in Canadian schools, unless they're talking about the residential schools, which I don't agree with, because you're totally going to destroy the name John A. Macdonald and the legacy of John A. Macdonald.
As well as just Canadian history in general.
Yeah, like, exactly. Just general. Yeah. Like, are you not going to teach who the first, like, everyone in the States know who the first president was? Or I think they do. I don't know.
Most people know George Washington, I think.
I would hope so. But not everybody in Canada knows who John A. Macdonald is. And he's pretty important. He's literally the founder of the country that you now live in.
Yes.
So, yeah. So I don't like that.
Yeah, that makes me a little uncomfortable about. I mean, it's just such a. I mean, isn't the whole point of history is to attempt to, like, we all know that, like, obvious, like, history, no matter where you get it from, is going to be biased in some way or another. So obviously, you can attempt to portray it in the least biased way possible.
Exactly.
Like,
you should at least
that's not portraying it with, like, a hidden personal bias. That's like actively choosing to leave out just chunks.
Yeah, you're literally leaving out 95% of leaving out 95% of who John A. Macdonald was. Like, the residential schools, as big and as terrible as they were, but that was not the only thing that he did.
No, I mean, like, I'm all for talking about it. Like, I don't think that we should not talk about those things.
No, absolutely. When I did history in high school, I think according to the actual curriculum, you're only supposed to spend like a day or two, like 1 or 2 classes on the residential schools. And Mr. Scott spent like 2 weeks talking about it because he's like, this is so important and you need to know about it. And I 100% agree. And absolutely. I did we did like 2 or 3 projects, and like one written one, like a spoken one, on the residential schools to get a grasp of just, because it's literally like the worst thing Canada has done. Like the States have a lot of shitty stuff they've done, but I think Canada, like, this is our thing that we fucked up.
Yeah.
There
are a lot of bad things that came out of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So anyway, that's my thing on John A. Macdonald there.
Yeah, I agree that I think that just so many people aren't willing to take a nuanced view and assess the multiple levels that it falls under, as opposed to just like, he did some awful things, we can't be praising a statue of him, or that you can't do anything and that this is history and we should never even consider touching it. Like, there's a middle ground here that may end up on one side or the other of removing it or not removing it, but I don't think that it seems like this took a very black and white route.
Yeah.
Very one-sidedly of
Yeah. And I think I don't think it's meant to be like, you know, like, I don't think they're like, especially like, I don't know, locally, like in like Victoria, I don't think that they're maliciously trying to like erase history. I think genuinely they're trying to move towards reconciliation for Indigenous people.
I don't doubt that it was from good intentions or supposed good intentions.
Mm-hmm. It was definitely good intentions. And when it comes to removing a statue, I like, especially a statue of like someone of such great importance. I'm not a fan of like just tearing it down and destroying it. Moving it to maybe a more appropriate spot, sure, 100%. But tearing it down and like destroying it, I was
Yeah,
kind
which
of
was
worried that
definitely
I
the
was
initial
kind of worried that
plan.
they were going to destroy it, and I was like, "That's fuck! Like, don't do that. Like, move it
Yeah,
if you want to a more appropriate spot, the museum, down by the water, like wherever kind of seems appropriate." But it's like, I don't know. Yeah. Did you hear the plaque got defaced and like messed up, like literally a day after it got put up? Like,
oh
plaque.
yeah, yeah. I forget what some of the one. It was something about 1984, wasn't it?
No, like somebody like the day after the plaque that replaced the statue got put up,
Yeah,
somebody like came by and just like scratched.
yeah. I think there was also something about uh yeah. Yeah, so something it's yeah, someone put a large X through it and wrote communism in 1984 or scrawled on it.
Damn.
It's like, yeah, it brings us some interesting points about erasing history to make it what you want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's complicated because it's one of those topics where like if you question it, like if you like it, like stuff about like Aboriginal or Indigenous, reconciliation and that kind of stuff, it's a very touchy subject, and so it's one of the things like if you talk about it, it has to be in. There's so many things like that today where it has to be in this sort of long form discussion. It can't be, like a quick 2-minute discussion, because if you get into it, you're going to have to explain your points, which are very complicated. And you risk people, it's almost like you can't even talk about it without being, called, I don't know, racist or
Yeah, well,
whatever.
I mean, yeah, like there's people who call things out like this about like that even talking about things like this makes you racist.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that removing the statue is wrong. Um, if they were to destroy it, I would say that that's wrong. Um,
Yeah.
but but you can't talk about. It's like you can't talk about John A. Macdonald in a good light. Like you can't talk about him, say he's the founder of our country, and that's awesome. Without somebody assuming that you agree with everything that he did. You know what I mean? You can't talk about it in a good light and say I like John A. Macdonald because he's the founder of our country. He literally he built the rail, or he was the reason for the Trans Canada Railway,
Yeah.
and like, but you can't talk about it in a good light because there are people who will assume that you agree with everything he did, which obviously I don't. You know
No,
what I
but
mean?
I mean, I feel like that translates on like the larger scale just to like, I mean, I don't like, how does this translate to me being like happy and like thankful that I live in Canada?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that I'm pretty lucky to have been born here and to be a citizen of this country
Yeah.
because of what it currently is and what I have access to. Um, and whether or not that is the result of some terrible events, it's still what it is right now. And I mean, again, I'm not saying that those were good or even necessarily that they should have happened or things like that, but these are all things that ended up here. And
Mm-hmm.
we can't actually change that.
Yeah, we can learn about it, study
Yes.
it, and not And there are things that definitely we don't want to do again. I think you should learn about it, but I also think it's important to learn about the great things that he did, just for purely to have pride in your country and learn about your country. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm a history buff, so I love this shit, and I think it's super, not just cool, but I think it's important to know about your country and know the origins of it, and know the good shit, know the bad shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's just important. I think it's cool, just because I love history. Yeah, that was one of my favorite classes, was social studies and that kind of stuff, psychology, history. Love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
don't mind me, I'm just gonna drink wine out of the bottle.
No, go for it.
I just noticed it behind me and I was like, I still have a bit in here.
Have fun. I've been experimenting a little bit with some of the Ontario breweries.
Oh,
things like that.
Do they have a lot of microbrews?
I don't know. They typically have a couple. I've only had 2.
Okay.
So my experimenting more is in I've tasted 2.
Oh, sick.
So it's very new. But
did I see you have a liquor store across the street from your building?
Yeah. It's
that's fucking dangerous.
It's right down there.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's
also
the cabinet behind you there.
Yes.
That's gonna be your liquor shelf up there. Next time we have a podcast, this is gonna be covered in Jameson bottles and.
All right, I'll make that happen. I will start drinking heavily so I can fill it up with all those bottles, and we'll be great to go.
Yeah. Sick.
I mean, we could do that for a podcast. We could just do shot for shot and see where the conversation goes.
Oh my god.
Anytime a potentially uncomfortable subject comes out.
Oh, yeah. Yo, what would get me hammered is every time I touch my face. I'm I realize now, looking at myself, I touch my face a lot. Well,
yeah. Well, doing this, yeah. The second that you start, I forget. There's a number of humans touch their face a certain amount of times.
Yeah, I was just trying to remember that.
It goes down when you're lying. I think it is. I feel like you touch your face less times when you're lying. I may be completely wrong with this stat.
That would make sense, because if you're trying to act natural,
yeah. Because the second you start to act natural, you're oh, don't touch my face. When humans actually touch their face a lot every minute. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think someone just knocked on my door, but I'm gonna ignore them.
It's a good plan.
I told everyone I was doing a podcast and leave me alone. So
not gonna let it go.
Yeah. Man, I've been listening to so many podcasts lately, because at work I'm just doing this thing where I basically just sit there all day and just drill, and it's super loud, and I know nobody's gonna try and radio me, because they know where I am, they know what I'm doing, and so I just put my headphones in and then put over-ear headphones over, so that it's still protecting my ears from the sound. And I just listen to podcasts all day. I've listened to
your knowledge is just skyrocketing.
Oh, dude, I'm woke. Okay, I've been listening Joe Rogan's podcast. I'm tempted just to start at 0 and just see how far I can.
Whoa, can you make it catch up today? He does 3 a day.
Sometimes
3 every 2 days, something twice a week. If you want a great one, you need to listen to. What number is it?
Who is on it?
You listen to number 1109, which is with Matthew Walker. And it's all about sleep.
Oh, all right.
And oh my, you will, if you aren't terrified to changing your sleeping habits after listening to that, I don't know what will.
Does he talk about how being sleep deprived gives you diabetes and stuff like that?
He talks about how he throws out that being sleep deprived increases your risk for a heart attack by 25%.
Yeah,
maybe it's higher than that. It's It's insane.
I know a little bit
Yeah.
about like how important sleep is. We learned about it in school, at Camosun, and it was part of one of our health classes that we did. And yeah, like we spent like probably one or two lectures on like how devastating it can be if you don't get enough sleep. And did you just send me a link?
Yeah, I sent you the link to it so you can find it. Like I wouldn't like don't pull it up now, but it's just
Oh,
yeah.
I see. Solid two
Yeah.
hour, so solid 2 hour podcast for me. Excellent.
Hmm. If you yeah, so you were saying about you just been crushing the Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah, I've just been going like ham on Joe Rogan. Um, where do I pull up the? Where do I
I'm
get
gonna
back?
send you another good one.
Okay.
Here we go. This one is with Sam Harris, and he's talking to a guy named Coleman Hughes,
Mhm.
who is a undergraduate philosophy student who has written a couple articles for a website called Quillette, which is like an online magazine.
Yep.
And it's really great.
Okay.
They dive into all of the touchy things.
I like it.
Yes.
So I've totally lost the Hangout. I can't find it.
Like where I am right now.
Yeah, like I can't see the screen.
Oh, minimize all your windows, and it's probably.
You're in a video call. Yeah, I want to see it, please. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, this is so bizarre. What the heck? I'm trying to like get back into the Hangout, and it's so weird. So weird. What the? So confused. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to get back to it. Like I can't see it if I. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. I did it. Technology, right?
You found it?
Yeah, I got it. I'm back. That was such an exciting like 2 minutes while I just struggle with technology.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're just a little Norse, that's all.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, so what I have like the last probably like month or so, I've been doing a lot more looking into kind of like by accident, I've been like learning a lot more about the gender pay gap.
Okay.
What's your take on that?
Absolutely. If you add up the average earnings of men, you add up the average earnings of women, the average earnings of men is higher than the average earnings of women. However,
over all fields and over all ages. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. I don't think that anybody disputes the fact that those numbers are different, but the second that you get into the reasons as to why those numbers are different,
yeah,
where you start to realize that it's not due to discrimination and that it's due to multiple factors like
a lot. Like there's a lot of
choice. And I mean, obviously, there are some cases in which discrimination is involved, but in the vast majority,
makes up a very small percentage.
The simple fact is that it is illegal to pay women less than men.
Yeah.
In basically every country on earth.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't
any westernized society.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you look at countries, this is like the stat that I find like the most interesting is that the countries as they get less egalitarian normally have a smaller pay gap in between them.
Mm.
like countries like India or um,
Scandinavia.
I'm trying to remember. No. Those are like the more egalitarian countries,
Oh, okay, yeah.
which have larger gaps because
Because
as you have those less like services and options for an actual choice,
yeah,
it's like no, like I need to make money, so I have to go into a field that's a high paying job. So you start finding a lot more women in fields like engineering. Whereas once you get into like the Scandinavian countries, you find a lot more women in healthcare and other jobs dealing with people as opposed to things.
yeah. Because they were, the more choice you give them, the more they're gonna go to that direction. You know what I mean?
Yes, and
Like they expected if they gave them like equal, like if they expected if they gave them like all the choice that more women would go into, or if they, yeah, what was it they expected? Like way
well,
more, they
as you
expected way
replace
more
that
women to go into male dominant jobs, and that
jobs
was the
because they
opposite.
expected the only reason that they're not going to male dominant jobs is due to discrimination.
Hmm.
But they've done studies at like month old, like under a year old babies who have not been pre exposed to societal gender roles. And they pretty much line up that male babies tend towards male stereotypical male toys.
Hmm.
Female babies tend towards stereotypical female toys. And it's not because their parents have been secretly coaching them for 3 months that you're a girl and you like dolls and you're a boy and you like fire trucks. It just has to do with the way that we operate.
It's biological factors. They even did
Yes.
it on chimpanzees. They gave baby chimpanzees, um, like dolls and stuff, and they also gave them fire trucks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Typical girl toys and typical boy toys. They did it with both female baby chimps and male baby chimps, and overwhelmingly amount the like it was overwhelming that it was overwhelmingly true that the baby male apes went for the typical male toys and vice versa.
Yeah. And that's
Like
not to say that people can't mix and mingle into that. It's just that
I played with
you're
dolls.
going to have
Played with dolls
these,
my entire childhood.
yeah.
Like I literally had a basket, and like my parents will still talk about it. It was called my basket of guys, and I
basket
had
guys.
basket of guys. I carried them everywhere, man. Like I had a mixture of like Barbies. I had like four different action figures of Batman. Like they all look different. But yeah, I loved dolls when I was a kid, all the way up till I was probably 9 or 10. And then I sort of moved away from them. But actually, you know what? I probably, honestly, into my early teens, I probably still played with like action figures and dolls and stuff.
Yeah, and so
by me.
Now's the time everyone's gonna find out on ours.
I know.
Oh no.
Oh,
your
no.
social status is ruined
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like when people will toss out things. I don't remember what the actual number is, but about like out of all the top, like out of the CEOs of the top like 25 Fortune 500 companies, only like 3 of them are women or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's for the same reason for the gender pay gap.
Like that's true. I don't see what like is why is that statement on its own a bad thing?
Yeah, I know. Like it's not okay. You have to, and like that statement alone, to the general public sounds bad. You know what I mean? But as soon as you try to change that statement for just what it is, the statement, you know what I mean? As soon as you go, okay, the top 25 biggest countries in the country, the top 25 biggest companies in the country are predominantly male. If you just take that and go, okay, well, we have to make 50% of them women now. That you're going for equality of outcome, which is a horrible idea.
Exactly. Like, why are we all assuming that that's right? Like, if we were to say, like, okay, so let's say with CEOs, like, say the number is like 95% of CEOs are male. Like, that's unacceptable. Like, that number should be 50%. We can't flip that and go 93% of workplace deaths are men. We need to fix that and make that number 50-50. Like that's a like egregious claim to say something like that. Like, no, we don't want that at all. We don't want more women to be dying, but we don't want more men to be dying. It's just these numbers don't have to be 50-50 for them to be the way they are.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. So let me just lay out our original premise. I'm assuming you agree with me when I say the gender pay gap,
Mm-hmm.
the way it's presented is false. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have men working, you don't have women working for, what is it, 77, 79 cents for every
Yeah, that's
dollar
like
a man
common
makes
number
for
now
the same
still.
job and the same qualifications. That's not a thing.
No.
That's not what it is. Even the people who conducted that study and came up with those numbers have come forward saying, like, this is not, with the way you're using these stats are not, you know, you can't use them for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not how it works. And no economist is going to take those seriously, because it's too broad. You're going, basically the way they came up with it, you know how it was come up with, but they took all female jobs, like they took all women's earnings for over all jobs, no matter how much the job paid, and I think it was part-time and full-time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, part-time
Mm-hmm.
and full-time. So right there, just in those two things, you're not gonna get an actual.
No, because a part-time employee is worth less money than a full-time employee is.
Exactly. So
Like,
that brings down the average drastically. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? That brings down the women's average, and there's way more women working part-time because of family commitment.
Yeah, and you also have like women out earn men fresh out of college graduates.
Yeah. In the UK, I don't know if this is true for like North America, but in the UK at least, women from their 20s to 30s earn more than men in their 20s to 30s.
Yeah, that translates here as well.
Does it?
Because yeah, I'm almost 99% sure.
Okay, I would believe it. I'm just saying, like, these stats are from the UK. I don't know what the actual stats are for North America, but in the UK, yeah, women in their 20s to 30s earn, or from the ages of 20 to 30, earn more than men. And there's reasons for that. I mean, women are fantastic in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're also graduating from university at higher rates than men are, and just simply enrolled in university more than men.
Yeah.
So it's kind of understandable.
Yeah. And then there is that, I just watched the podcast where Jordan Peterson talks about the stats in the law firms, which I know you told me about, where like women excel in law firms. They excel until they hit about 30, 35, and then realize, they don't need to be working as much as they do because they want to have a family.
Yes. And people will hear that and like take that as a knock against them, like, but I don't want to have a family. It's like, then that's the beauty, that you get to decide to do that, and you can keep working and you can keep doing what you want to do. Like, no one's saying that because women make these choices that you can't have your career that you want to have. It's just the general rule that applies.
There are so many people that don't want to have kids in their, like, I find there's lots of women that in their 20s, especially in the early 20s, say, I don't want kids, like right now. I know there's lots that do, but then I know I know lots of women. I think it's just because of the women I spend lots of time with. I spent lots of time with young women going to college, and lots of them were in college because they were trying to progress their career, not have families, you know what I mean? So lots of them were of that mindset, like, kids, no way, can't do that, no way. Lots of them, like, I have a friend who claims she doesn't want kids at all, And that might change by the time she hits 30, 35, and her career is fucking, she's hit, she's at the top of her career. She's making great money. And, maybe she can't really progress her career, all that much more. She can't go any higher.
And I'm going to say this, and maybe I'll be guessing. This is the wrong thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway.
This is a safe place.
Is that also, though, like, along the lines of that is, especially like right now when you're thinking about this, is that like if you're thinking about the things you want to have in place before you would want to have children or something like that, is like you want to have like financial stability and all these things, which is why it's worthwhile to progress your career to gain all those things. However, like if you end up finding yourself in some form of a partner relationship in which one person is able to provide that for you, suddenly these ambitions you had for the sole reason, like if your only reason, say, is financial stability, if that is suddenly like out of nowhere supplied for you, you have other options open to you that you might not have had. Like if you decided that you wanted to forgo having kids so you could progress a career and have that financial stability, situations can change and then you can have other options open to you. Again, not saying that people need to pick one or the other, but that does change the dynamic.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I have definitely, like just going with the idea that like everyone is an individual and like thinking of people as an individual. I've been trying to figure out like where I actually stand on like when it comes to like politics. I used to say that I was like pretty socialist, I would say, but I think I've moved towards I started listening to Dave Rubin. I was like, fuck, this guy is just on point with what I would say. And so I think I've sort of like started falling into the class of like a classic liberal.
You like the classical liberal.
Yeah, I would say I'm more left. I would say like because liberals I feel like can be left leaning or right leaning.
Yeah,
I would say I'm a more left leaning classic liberal, if that makes sense. But the core belief that everyone is an individual and should be treated as an individual, not as a group, not as because I've been listening to the dangers of identity politics, and man, that shit is scary when it goes to the extreme. Even in the little bits even in like the parts we're seeing now, that is scary shit.
Yeah, it's like it's what gives you the Holocaust, and it's what gives you like the millions of deaths from communism.
Yeah,
like gives you either side.
Yeah.
So
I'm equally afraid of radical left as I am of radical right. I'd say I'm more afraid of radical left because it's harder to tell when they've gone too far. There isn't really a point. Like it's hard to pinpoint when people on the radical left have gone too far. On the radical right, it's super easy. It's like, oh, you're a racist. Like, oh, you're a white supremacist. Yeah, gone too far. You're a racist. Gone too far. You believe in, I don't know, traditional marriage and being allowed to beat your women. Gone too far. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's easier to tell, or like
our little modern day censors go, this isn't okay.
Yeah, because and I think it's because we've seen it before more, you know what I mean? Like, like there's more cases of radical right than there are of radical left. And it's just, and the radical left disguise themselves, disguise their ideology in being ethical, being moral, compassionate. They hide in that. And so when you say, so when you point your finger and say like, I don't agree with you, I don't see what you see. Oh my God, I'm part of the patriarchy trying to suppress and
That's what you are.
and all that's like you see that happening to some pretty, I mean, like Brett Weinstein is a perfect example. He's literally he's like a progressive liberal himself. He would consider himself super progressive. And he's like one of the nicest guys ever.
Yeah,
And he's
Brett's
like
great.
he's a quiet little nerdy guy, biologist, professor for like 20 years. And then because it's this one incident where the college asked all white people to leave campus,
He's like, no.
He's like, no, I don't agree with that. Especially because if you hear like where it originally came from, the reason the school started doing it was because it was based on this play where, in this play, to show the importance of this play is from like the 1800s or something like that, but it was based in the 1800s. So to show the importance of the role that Black people played in the community, they had a day of absence where all the Black people in the community didn't show up to their jobs, show up to work, show up to school, and to show the importance that they play in the community. And basically the community, like a bunch of shit goes wrong because like they're not there. You know what I mean? It was basically just a show of like they're there for a reason, the importance of why they're there. And so this university, Evergreen, adopted that. Every year they have this day of absence where first it was just Black people, and then it was people of color, and all people of color got included. And basically on this day, everyone voluntarily, all people of color voluntarily don't show up to school to show the importance that they play in the community.
Yeah.
And then that year, they decided to change it, and instead of having all people of color voluntarily not come to school, they asked all white people, students and professors, to not show up. So it turned into people voluntarily doing it to now all white people being told not to show up. And Brett Weinstein opposed it, and he said, no, I'm not going to do that because it's by all definitions racist. And he didn't agree. He didn't agree with this change of it, and just everybody just melted down and started calling him a racist, and it turned into like this huge thing. And I still can't even wrap my head around all, like, if people are watching this, go look up Brett Weinstein Evergreen and go watch what happened. Because I can't even explain it. Like, I can't even wrap my head around how insane it turned into. Like, I can't even wrap my head around it.
It's
the fact that something like that happened and that they were allowed to get away with that stuff.
It did not turn out well. So I'm with you on the whole identity politics thing just being a colossal,
it's dangerous,
bad mode of action.
What's that?
It's just a bad mode of action.
It's a terrible idea. Like, just all around.
All right. I think this is a good spot to play this. I like this format. And also, now that we have the internet working pretty well, we can probably do this a little bit earlier next time.
Yeah.
And then it will be like 11:30 and I have to get up tomorrow. This is good.
Yeah, I like this. I like that we were able to figure out like a good way to do this.
Yeah.
Especially because the first time we did it was like midday and it was like terrible quality. So I'm glad that this is working well.
This seemed to go smoothly.
Sweet.
All right. Awesome, man.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Cool. Sounds good. This was good.
All right. Chuck Sampson podcast, episode 4. Done.
Peace.